Hey, it's 10 o'clock. We'll call the Sawyer County Administration Committee meeting to order, please. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Tweed Schuman,
Here.
Ron Buckholz,
Present.
Tom Duffy,
Here.
Ron Kinsley,
Here.
Dale Schleter. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Certification of compliance with open meetings law, Madam Clerk.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. All right, the meeting agenda has been presented. Moving on then to number 6, public comments. Is there anybody online, Mike, for public comment? Okay, I have one slip here. Linda, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Ma'am, you have 3 minutes.
Linda Zilmer, resident of the Village of Birchwood, property owner in Edgewater. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge and express my appreciation for all the work that IT and county staff do to make committee and board meetings accessible via Zoom, and then providing the recordings for people to watch when they can, if they can't attend either in person or virtually the meeting at the meeting time. As I watch the YouTube videos, I think there's some items of interest that show that there is a broader interest developing in things in the zoning area and with the ad hoc committee. And it's generating a lot of conversation, and hopefully it'll make the whole process better going down the road. But one of the things I wanted to mention, because I'm getting emails and questions about it, is people don't understand how much work it takes to coordinate all this so that they can view virtually. And some of the questions that have been brought to me is if there is an exhibit that is being talked about in a committee meeting, but is not available either as part of the agenda packet, or they can't view it online. I know part of the problem is a timing of when reports or exhibits are submitted to be attached to the agenda. If there's a way to either set a deadline for reports to be attached or have a separate area where people can refer to them later, that will help, because all of that makes both the full county board, if they want to know what was done at a committee meeting, they have access to it. I think that was a really good upgrade last month to include the agenda or the minutes as part of the county board agenda. And this would just be providing more detail. And wanted to also request that somewhere in 2024, the county look at a recycling program for the recyclables that are generated within county facilities. Attending the Washburn County budget week that they had, there was a lot of discussion about the process that they have to collect recyclables as part of building maintenance and reducing costs. And I don't know that it generates income, but it's just all over a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? All right, moving on then to number 7. Consider approval of our meeting minutes, October 12th, 2023. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Any edits, corrections, Mr. Duffy?
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Duffy, second by Mr. Buckholz to approve our meeting minutes as presented. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 8, Veterans Service Department report.
Hi, good
Gary?
morning. Good morning. So
Morning.
for October, we had 540 phone calls, 402 letters, emails and faxes, and 167 office visits. Our VA disability compensation and pension claims up to date 181 that were filed. And with the $207,512.28 in initial payout in the veterans' favor. Our training is up to date. I guess what I I was a little slow this month in getting our report in, but I was remiss in putting in our 2022 annual report. It usually takes July or August before we get the final information. I had our Veterans Commission meet, and I provided this to them, but I wanted you to have a copy to see what we did in 2022 according to the federal and state government as far as what we achieved. So and you can take a look at it, but for 2022, we had $9,827,000 in compensation and pension paid out directly to our veterans. Medicare, medical care was over $8.8 million in medical care. For home loans, there was over $8.6 million in VA certified home loans. Burial benefits for deceased veterans and their for payout, excuse me, for service connection or plot is $83,000. And then education benefits, voc rehab and employment training come out to $316,000 for 2022. And Wisconsin Disabled Veteran Property Tax, which is a state program for the veterans that are 100% service connected, can apply for property tax credit reimbursement. And that come out to $112,125. So for our office, we brought in over $27.8 million basically for our veterans due to our service office. Okay. For the overview, I'm talking about, I always give you the office visits, phone calls and letters, but it total over 10,380 contacts for 2022. 42 deaths and burials that we processed. Disability claims was 130. So I kept telling you how busy we were. That was 130 for 2022. Right now we're at 181. So that's how busy this office has been this year. Transportation to Minneapolis. We had 40 veterans that we transported to Minneapolis and back in 2022. For our La Crosse Vet Center, prior to COVID, we had a counselor that lived in Sawyer County that was assigned to the vet center out of La Crosse, provided face-to-face counseling. Because of COVID, everybody transitioned to, basically dock in the box. I've got both offices, excuse me. We've got not offices, but our briefing rooms. We've got a small briefing room and a large briefing room that we provide dock in the box, if you will, counseling sessions. We have group counseling every 2 weeks for combat veterans. And it's normally made up of Vietnam veterans. Our Gulf War veterans like myself are still working. So you don't see too many of them. But the retirees, they come in quite often. Like I said, every 2 weeks. It's a great group, and they help each other outside of that counseling too, as far as friendship and bonding. And they have problems, they seem to help each other, which is awesome. And then we have individual counseling too for our veterans, for combat veterans and military sexual assault. We can do that counseling with the vet center. I put hands together with the veteran and the counseling or the La Crosse Center. They do a brief intake, and then they set them up for counseling. If they can do it at home if they wish. Otherwise, for the most part, most of our veterans will have their appointments set before they leave their last counseling session, so they know what day it is. And then the counselor emails that appointment request to myself and Nicole, and we will set up the room for them. They walk in, we hit start, we close the door, they're on their way. An hour later, they usually come out with a smile and say, my next appointment's on this date. I plug it in, I block the room for the veteran, and then I wait for that day of counseling where I get an email and we set it up again for them. So that's ongoing. It's been very successful. And the veterans, counseling is anywhere from $100 to $150 an hour, and they're getting it for nothing. So, well, not nothing, they earned it, but it's there for them where they don't have to pay out for it. Okay.
Gary,
So-
is that by Zoom then, where they're face to face, or is that
Correct.
only audible?
Correct. It's face to face.
Okay.
I've got an eyeball basically on the desk. They got a TV and a laptop. So yeah, it's just like
Yeah,
Here to here.
that's good.
so. Yep. And then on occasion for our group counselor, they don't trade off, but the group counselor will come up here like 3 times a year and the guys love it. So they usually have snacks and coffee and it's, very, personal, if you will, but it's been successful and, there's huge benefit. I can see huge benefit with these people, with our veterans and, coming out of those briefings and the camaraderie. So anyway, our accreditation training is, like I said, it's up to speed. We keep up on that. There's like 3 different things that we have to watch with our training, for now, but we're on top of it so we can do our job as expected. The other thing we started this year, COVID was really bad, and I seen a lot of veterans, especially our elderly, stay in their home in the winter months, and their mental health deteriorated. And right after the mental health goes the physical health. So, and it hasn't necessarily, people haven't necessarily come out of the woodwork completely since COVID. So I talked to Nicole and said, I'd like to do an event where we can get the veterans to come in maybe once a month and socialize, but we'll talk about veteran benefits as well. That way we're doing our job, if you will, and I'm hopefully opening up a venue for our elderly veterans who are widows or widowers, and they can come in and meet other veterans. And we can talk about benefits, and usually I'll have somebody ask a question not somebody else is unwilling to ask, and it usually generates a conversation of benefits and what we can do for them, and try to basically get them out of the house, keep them mentally healthy and active at least, and try to and the other part is I can get my eyes on them too and see how they're doing, and we can go from there. But so we did that the first Wednesday of every month. We started this November 3rd. We're going to December, January, and we're going to see how it goes. But we had 10 individuals show up on the first one, which was pretty dang nice. We've got Quick Trip was generous. They said they would donate coffee for us on this event and some donuts. We had some stuff from Jack Links donated. And I have a plethora of veteran memorabilia type stuff that we put a little bag together and had a drawing for the bag. So we'll see how it goes, right? But everybody likes free stuff and snacks and what have you. So we'll see how it goes. But I think it was needed, and I hope that it blossoms and we get some traction out of it. We're advertising on the radio. I don't know if you heard that, but I applied for a CVSO supplemental grant. It's a one-time thing, basically come out of ARPA funds from the federal government to the state, and then from the state, it trickled down to us. That money, we're trying to use it for outreach. It's quite a bit of money, but it covers a lot of things that we need done that won't necessarily come out of the coffers of Sawyer County, if you will. So we're going to try to leverage that grant money before we have to either turn it back in or use it. Any questions?
No, anything for Gary?
We do a lot out there. Anything else that you need from us?
Nope, thanks. We're just busy, and it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. But I've got what I need. I can't thank you enough, everybody enough for getting Nicole on full time. She's very smart. She picks stuff up really quick. She does good work, and it's so nice that it gives me an opportunity to. We're getting more done. Basically, we're getting more done. It's not slowed down in that aspect as far as workload.
Appreciate that. I know that's in the budget, correct, Andy? We just have to approve the budget. Okay. It's in the budget? All right. Okay, appreciate it, Gary.
Yep, thank you.
Yes.
He didn't make note, but there's a choir concert to honor the veterans tonight at 7 o'clock at the Hayward High School. And then tomorrow morning at the intermediate school at 9 o'clock. The youth put on a veterans service.
Yeah, thank you. I did not do that push, but yes. And so, yep, thank you. So yeah, tonight is the choir at 7 o'clock at the high school. It's an awesome event. If you've not gotten to go, I would go. Those kids, they do a great job. Intermediate school is always great too. I get a little teary eyed because they're little kids and they're proud of their country. So,
Yep.
Then let's see. So that's Friday. So Saturday, the American Legion is going to go to various nursing homes in the morning. And then that evening is a veterans dinner. It's 4 o'clock is social hour, 5 o'clock is dinner at the Hayward Community Veterans Center. There is a powwow LCO is hosting. That starts, I want to say, at noon, and at 5 o'clock at the high school on LCO, and I can't remember the name of the high school. So LCO High School. And
Yep.
I'm forgetting one more thing. Oh, the Lions Club and Stone Lake. I'm going to go down and speak there at noon on Saturday. So.
All right. Thank you, Gary.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate all you do.
Thanks.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, moving on then to number 9. Information technology report. Mike?
All right, so just a couple of the bigger projects, door controls. So with the new construction, we sort of flipped how our proximity card readers work. Instead of having a standalone system for the courthouse, we integrated with Sheriff. So most of it's working, but we still got a few doors on the far wing to put back in and give people the ability to remotely open the doors. That's been a request outstanding for a while, so that's underway. Finally going to be completing the audio video for some of the rooms here, hopefully by next month's admin meeting. I should be able to report that those rooms are all done. Well, a small courtroom is going to go into next year, but Kansas should be up and running for sure. And then working with John Pino for some door controls and also highway surveillance out there. That system needs to be replaced. Other than that, that's it, unless you have any questions.
Okay, anything else for Mike, folks? No. But I appreciate all the comments too, Mike, on people being able to access our meetings and replay them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, then moving on to number 10, human resources report. I don't see Rose, but she's provided a written report, Andy.
Yep, she's got a written report in there. She's not here. Unfortunately, we've got a few HR issues that we've been dealing with. Some new, some that have been ongoing. Not just employee, but some things that involve our employees with the depositions, things like that. So she's actually coordinating those today. But yeah, we've done some restructuring out at Highway as far as getting the foreman positions established at each of the shops, hired a night watchman position, as well as a driver in Radisson, and still recruiting for Hayward. And then also, I think we mentioned this last month, but Brad Bizey, our operations superintendent, is retiring, and we've got a new, somebody that was a newly hired is moving into that position as well. So that actually started this week. So things I think are shaping up out at Highway. Children, Youth, and Family Services supervisor. So we've been without a supervisor since, when was it? January, February. But we had to piece back together that unit. We've got everything staffed. We've been using Season Westfall as a contract supervisor remotely. But that really is come together well. And so actually Sarah Anchauskis, who was our youth justice person in that department, is going to step up into the supervisor role. It's going to be a little transition. Season's going to stay on to mentor her for a period of time. But we think that's a positive step with that unit. Still have a part-time position in the probate clerk of court office. That's the new half-time position. We did fill the full-time vacancy last month, but still need to fill out that half-time position. That was done as part of the clerk of court taking on the probate work. And still recruiting for EMS, dispatch, and mental health. Right now, yeah, she's got the note in there about several ongoing personnel issues. And then open enrollment is underway for insurance and updating the personnel manual, some of the bigger projects happening.
Okay, any questions, concerns for HR? And was it Mr. Bicey? Didn't you fill in for us interim as the highway commissioner?
Yep, he was interim until we brought Mr. Pino in.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, if nothing else, appreciate that report, Andy. We'll move on then to number 11, County Clerk Department Report. Madam Clerk.
Yes, the report is there as far as the activity at the counter. We did meet with Nicole Rapinski over at the training room for the Sheriff's Department. That is our backup plan for elections if we end up having to move the services on an election day. So we met over there and looked at some options. On November 1st, it says here we were holding 2 municipal clerk trainings. Well, that's come and gone, and we've had over 120 poll workers and municipal clerks attend. It was very crowded. Next time we'll have to think about additional services because we had 2 sessions and it was just too big to really do a fantastic job. That is all volunteer. When our trainers come in, we use Patty Swaffield from the town of Hunter, Liz and Chris from the town of Draper come in, and that's all on their own dime to come develop those programs. So I appreciate their work and their effort. Sometimes it doesn't go as smoothly as we hope. We had an interruption. A restaurant forgot to put our pizzas in for the first one, so we had to stop in the middle and start all over, and that always skews the first one. We are having, I had a phone conference yesterday with David Melby from CISA, Division of Homeland Security, and he told me about some options to where he can come up and do some walkthroughs at not only the county courthouse, but other municipalities that might be interested in seeing how they can improve their security measures for election time. And so I put an email out to clerks asking if they wanted to be part of this because he's coming up from Milwaukee. He'll do about 6 or 7 visits. And I've got one response back yet so far from the town of Bass Lake. They're interested in being part of that walkthrough process. He'll go from municipality to municipality throughout the day. So we're excited to have that. That's no cost to the county. And he looks at inexpensive measures because he knows we don't have a lot of money, things that could just improve security during election time. So we're looking forward to having that done in January. Any questions?
Okay, anything for clerk? Busy times. And then you have public records request report.
Yep, as mentioned, I think it was last month, because the Sheriff's Department is so big, they have their own spreadsheet going now, and it's just too much work to combine. So I have it split out between all other departments and the Sheriff's Department as far as where records requests are coming from. So that will continue to be highlighted in the upper part there.
Okay,
You can
so are
see
these
that-
number of hours, Madam Clerk, are they monthly?
That's
Number
total
of
so
total
far.
hours tracked to fulfill requests?
That's total so far, but we didn't start tracking till about September.
Okay,
So it's really behind. So next year will be a much clearer picture. You can see that just in the last month, the Sheriff's Department had 42 requests. So pretty much that's Jane's full-time job is fulfilling those.
okay. All right, any questions for clerk?
Chair,
Oh, yes, Ms. Cecil.
what does that equal in cost for the county? Is that something we're keeping track of? I mean, there's the hours, but how much do we know that it costs the county for these then?
Well, I don't know that there's any way to track that because it depends on the person's wage
Oh,
of the
okay.
person that's involved.
Yeah, we just discussed this last month. Maybe I think we maybe it was at the county borders and they're meeting about starting to include in Lynn's tracking the cost or we have to get legal involved to somehow attach the cost we had to pay for each request into her report, but we just haven't gotten there yet.
Okay. And remind me, does that get reflected on to the person requesting the open records?
No, the only thing we can charge for is time to locate the record.
Over $50. So if it takes us time enough that our wages incur over $50, then we can charge
Right.
the difference, or we can charge, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and just as an example of a prior requests we've had, like if somebody wants to request all of our legal bills to see what we pay in legal fees, it doesn't take us any real time to locate those, but then somebody has to go through and redact, and that's not a cost that we can bill to the requester. That's a cost that we incur. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Is that a county policy or a state policy that you can't charge?
State.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, number 12, County Administrator's Report. Sir Alvarado.
Right into where I'm just gonna take a PTO discussion, so.
Kind of want to review that with the committee because this would require a change in the personnel manual if we were to switch from vacation sick leave to PTO. I've shared a proposed conversion with department heads and received some feedback from them, as well as them sharing it with the employees. I've not sent it out to all the employees, in part because the feedback I received from the department heads was not all positive. Not that that's what I shared it with to get feedback, and some of the negative reactions or critiques I think we can work on changing, but wanted to discuss it with the admin committee before I went any further with it. So paid time off is probably a more modern, more employers have moved to PTO than have vacation sick leave types of benefits. So if you're not aware, paid time off it's called personal time off. It's a benefit to the employees that works similar to vacation sick, but really it's combining those together. So an employee doesn't need to say if I'm going to be sick, I'm out sick, or I'm taking a vacation, or have personal appointments or family appointments to deal with. It's just kind of bundles it all together, and in our system would replace vacation, sick time, and the floating holiday. It's not including bereavement leave. We're going to leave that. They're proposing to leave that as it is, unchanged. Proposal is that our PTO would be applicable to all eligible employees who are not covered by terms of an employment contract, bargaining agreement, or who work in a 24-hour service. So we're not proposing to include EMS, sheriff department, dispatch, jail, or patrol. And in part, that's because if somebody is absent from the zoning office, we don't bring somebody in to fill their spot for the day. And when sheriff's department already has a contract, and in there it's vacation sick, and EMS, dispatch, and jail, if somebody is absent from work, we need to replace it. So potentially that could get more expensive, more of a liability to the county if we were to include the 24-hour services. The purpose of switching to PTO would be to give the employees more flexibility. It's generally regarded as more employee friendly. When we did, and I started this conversation last year, then backed off on it when we decided to assess all of our benefits. So we've gone through the process this year of switching our consultant, and then we focused on the insurances. We did do an employee survey to start with, and the things that were important to them. So there were, obviously health insurance was the most important, and trying to make that more affordable. And I think we've made some headway there. We ultimately decided not to make too many changes to health insurance, but we're prepared to in the future. And we didn't make the change because the health insurer came back with essentially a small reduction in our costs. So the employee is going to incur less health insurance expense. And same thing with dental and vision, even though those are employee funded, they're going to see a small reduction in their costs. So we made some headway there. The other thing in the survey we talked about or received the feedback about employees wanting flexibility, work-life balance. And then specifically on the question of PTO, I think 60% were in favor of PTO. That being said, we didn't say, here's the PTO system we're going to propose. So that's where we're at now, is proposing a PTO. benefit. And I'll just tell you that some of the negative comments or critical reaction is that there would be an overall reduction in paid time off. So that being right now, let's just say you get 21 days of vacation according to your current accrual schedule, and then you get 12 days of sick leave. Every employee gets 1 day, they accrue 1 day a month of sick leave. So 12 and 21, you'd have 33 days of total paid time off that you have access to after you accrue it for the year. Switching to PTO, you're generally going to back down the total number of days available. So I split, you generally get all of the vacation that you would have had and then some level of sick leave. I've seen anywhere from 25% to 75%. Generally, you don't get all the time you had before. So we split it in the middle and came up with an accrual schedule that would give employees all the vacation and half of the sick leave. So you'd lose about 6 days. And that's probably been the biggest sticking point is employees that maybe use a lot of time, see that they're going to have less access to time. The trade-off, of course, is that if you use a lot of time, you're going to see this reduction in time. If you don't use a lot of time, especially sick leave, you're actually going to get a week plus more of access to vacation. And so that allows employees to be flexible and determine what's important to them. And so just maybe run down a few of these things. Sick leave, what I've explained in the proposal is that if you have a current sick leave bank, right now you can accrue 12 days of sick leave a year, and wherever you don't use just rolls over to the next year. So you can build your sick leave bank, and ultimately you can use that towards retirement if you retire. If you have an extended absence, like an FMLA type of leave, you can tap your sick leave bank. So we're not touching that. If you have a sick leave bank now, you'll keep that bank going into the future, and we'll just change the name to an extended leave bank, and you'll still have access to that for extended sick leave or FMLA, that type of thing. And
Is there a cap on that?
we do have a cap. I believe it's 880. We're not changing that either.
Okay.
So in effect, though, what could happen is right now you get 12 days of sick leave a year, and you can accrue that. Going ahead, though, your PTO, whatever you don't use, let's see here, two things. Vacation,
Yeah.
you can have in your bank on your anniversary date your 1 year accrual plus 1 week, and you can roll it over year to year in your vacation. Sick leave just keeps on accruing up to the cap. With switch to PTO, you'll be able to accrue in your PTO bank 1 year and 1 week's worth of time that you can have on your anniversary date. Anything you have over that goes into your extended leave bank. So effectively, you'll have more access to vacation time, because I just did a calculation. Like if you're a 35-hour a week employee, on your anniversary date, you could have 119.5 hours in your vacation or vacation. Under PTO, you'll be able to have 165 hours that you can roll year to year for PTO time. And again, anything over that goes into your extended leave bank until you reach the cap. So employees will have more flexibility and the ability to accrue time in their bank quicker, because you'll have, like, if you don't use any of your time, instead of being able to roll 12 hours a year in sick leave, you could in effect roll 165 over to that if you don't ever use any time. But that's kind of the nuts and bolts of how the time works. But again, the proposal we put out there was in the pack here. Employees would lose right now. If you're a less than 5 years of service and you're a 35-hour a week employee, you could accrue annually 175.5 hours of time. Under the PTO system, it'd be 130. So it's just a little bit over 6 days of time. That's where I put it out there, because I felt that was a good balance. I thought it was giving the employees flexibility and also responsible to the county, because even though it doesn't cost us anything, because we set an employee's wage and that includes them taking time off. If somebody have offices where everybody's taking their time, then that, I'll use the highway department as an example. If they have more time to take off, and we want them to use it, that's why we give it to them. But, potentially you have days when you don't have as many people in, and if there's a snowstorm or some event that does put more workload on the other employees. So it doesn't cost us anything. the workload gets spread out through the department. So but could that number be increased? Could we go to a higher accrual so they don't lose as many days? Could do that. I started at 50%. We could add a couple days on there. I don't know if the employees that I've heard from, if that will be seen as favorable or if they still will just be opposed to losing any. It doesn't make any sense. A couple of the comments were, well, why can't we just convert all of what we were getting for vacation and sick leave over to PTO? And I think that doesn't make a lot of sense either, because there should be some balance in the flexibility we're giving them. We already given them a fair amount of flexibility also in their schedules in most departments as to, working 10s or 12s or 8s in time of the day. So I thought 6 was a good starting point. The other thing we put in here that is fairly unique, and there's been some comments on this, and this is intended to look separately as PTO, is we included 2 days of community service paid time off. Probably a little bit of a progressive idea, but not uncommon in governments and in the private sector. That in addition to their PTO, you get 2 days a year. That's not accrual. It's just 2 days. It does not roll over, does not get banked, that you can go out and say, I'm going to go work at the Berkey, and we'll pay you. You submit that time and we're going to pay for your volunteer time to do that, or whatever other community service activities is important to the employee. And to me, that's kind of a progressive idea, but it engages us as the county into the community, which I don't think necessarily happens. We encourage employees to be active and take the time to do the things that are important to them, kind of that work-life balance thing. So that additional 2 days would be paid time off, and the employee would submit it. We wouldn't intend to put a lot of restrictions on it. Hopefully the employee respects the integrity of what community service is, but we're not going to police, what they, where, how, and who they do their community service time for. Hopefully there's plenty of opportunities with their church or with community groups or the schools that they can, put some time in and be a contributor, and we would pay their hours for that time.
Mr. Buckholz.
Andy?
Yep.
With the PTO and sick time, if sick time, you can only use it if you're sick.
Yep.
If it's all rolled over into PTO, you can use it for anything,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I'm guessing I don't know why they wouldn't want to do that, but
Well, I think it's the overall reduction. Now,
the reduction in time.
reduction in time. PTO, it can be used for anything. So, but if you accrue a bank, like your sick leave bank that you have now would become your extended leave bank. And then on your anniversary date, any hours you have over your 1 year plus 5 days PTO cap would go to your extended leave bank. Once it's in your extended leave bank, that is only intended to be used for long-term absences, like FMLA events. Like if you're out sick for 3 days or more, then you can go to your extended leave bank and use that time. But you can't use your extended leave bank to take a 30-day cruise, though. It's got to be sick leave or FMLA based.
Okay, thank you.
Andy, are all these options you're proposing, then are they all budget neutral or?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what finance asked. It's budget neutral on a year-to-year basis. Now, the only potential liability in the future is that, like I said, people would be able to accrue time into their long-term bank quicker. Instead of doing 12 days a year, you could be putting more time in there if you don't take your PTO. And so there is some risk there, but generally we're doing this so people do take their time off and they do plan for their vacations, because that's part of the work-life balance. And then it's a liability only if they retire from the county and cash out their bank. And even there, we cap it. We're not increasing the cap on it or the formula on how it's cashed out. It's just that people could have larger balances than they did otherwise.
So are you looking for a motion then here to
Not today.
continue? Not today.
I'm
This is
putting this in
just,
front of you to get feedback, and then we'd bring it back next month. I guess
Yeah.
my next step is to send it out to all the employees.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to hear if anybody had any thoughts on, how much time we should include in PTO. If I could add a couple days. I mean, to me, I just don't think it makes any sense to give them to convert all the time they were getting in vacation sick to PTO. There is some trade-off to us. But we could go up a couple days there and
Sure. Ms. Hessel.
So the complaints that I received were about the loss, and I think that they're not understanding because most of the heads have showed their employees to get feedback. They're not understanding the loss. They're concerned about that aspect if their kids are sick. So how does this help? We're trying to recruit and retain employees. So I think instead of sending it out, I would encourage you to have a meeting because you've explained it a lot better than what I've read on what you've sent out. So maybe having a meeting so that they can express their concerns. You can explain it better. I feel like you just did a great job explaining it versus what they're perceiving. They're just seeing those loss of days and especially new employees that don't have accrued the time. So that's just something to consider, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. And the complaints I've had meetings with the department heads, not all of them, because I've received a few this week that I need to follow up on, but explaining it has helped. But yeah, that's what I would probably go office to office and do a Q&A with each of them in small groups over the next month to get that feedback. To something you just said too, that's not in here, but we've been discussing it in the admin area. One of the complaints we've had on our system overall is it's accrual based. So you have to work and then you start accruing time. Under PTO, you'll be able to accrue it quicker instead of like the new employee, instead of accruing it at 3.25 hours per payroll, they'll get 5 hours per payroll. That'll help, but we are thinking about proposing like a small bank to start new employees with. So they feel like they have some time until they accrue time. Because if we have had any complaints from the hiring process is that you need to be here a little while before you can be sick essentially. So
Right.
we might address that separately.
Okay, so it all sounds like we're in favor of you pursuing this and
Okay.
get it out to all the employees. That's a great idea. Did you want to continue with your report?
Sure.
Oh, Mr. Schluter, did you have a question?
Excuse me.
Yep. Turn your light on, sir. There
There
you
it
go.
is. Thank you. In the hiring process, are you talking about, I don't know, if it's a professional position, county treasurer, or not treasurer, but county finance, your job?
Yep.
Is this going to change the opportunity for negotiating with these people, candidates?
It's a good point. I mean, that we have done that. You did that with me. Like, somebody coming from a professional position that had time, as part of the hiring process, we've had the opportunity to negotiate and start people out with a different accrual rate, or some bank time to start with. So we still have that ability to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more, I would say, the line workers, so to speak. We've not done that, and we still have them on the accrual, but that would be something we would potentially be wanting to bring back to allow a small bank to start with to help with the hiring process.
Okay, the rest of your report, sir.
Yep. Courthouse renovation, update from committee last night. We still have some punch list items that are not done. They're coming next week to work on the floors in the evening. Some of the polished concrete did not turn out as it should have. There was curb work being done yesterday to address some curbs that were not done. We needed to have rollover curbs. They were a little bit higher than that. And then we have ongoing issues with the HVAC and even some leaks now that we're using the heat more often. So those all have to be taken care of. We've not settled the project. I've not paid it out. And then we still negotiating those terms as well. So other than that, I mean, the building is working out fairly well. We have some additional signage we feel we need. But other than that, just trying to get those last handful of items off of the punch list, and so we're taking over a building that is functioning the way it's supposed to be. Already covered the personnel and HR issues. I think the budget, unless anybody has any questions, that's going into the county board. Corporation Council, there has been a significant amount of work there. I'm just working with them on still working through the Billy Boy Dam issues and the water levels on Grindstone and LCO. Tourist Rooming House is getting closer, the ad hoc committee, to putting some policy together or process for permits that's involved the Corp Council. Some issues that we've had them review for LCO as far as tax deed properties within the reservation boundary. We received the response for that, and then open records requests. We've got a couple big ones that we were working with and need some help on. Sheriff's Department theirs are, a couple of theirs have been sizable, and then as well as just some general requests we have one request for all the contracts related to this project from the trades. So it's just taking a little time to work through all those, as well as kind of put aside some ordinance development to kind of control the legal costs there. Mental health services in the jail, we did go a different direction. We're not using the contractor. We were using, I bring that up because it had been talked about in a few committees last month. We were getting a mental health service through our nursing vendor. We've ended that contract and have contracted with a local provider. Not getting much in terms of more hours, but we think the quality of the work will be much better and they'll be more accessible since they're in town. Winter plans. Tim has worked out and communicate with the employees on the plans for plowing around this building. We didn't have to do much of it last year because of the construction, but taking over the 5th Street parking plowing will be a lot larger job as we'll navigating this parking lot. So we've got plans moving ahead on that. And then also we've had to make some contingency plans at the airport. We do some of that ourselves and some we use Thompson sand and gravel, but Thompson's not going to be doing it this year. So we've had to go out and find some other backup providers to help us out at the airport. Master plan, just in case anybody, we had a little short discussion at the last meeting about it, but the master plan at the airport is moving ahead. There'll be another meeting in February. In February's meeting, we'll have a public forum with it for the public to see, and everything that's being discussed and being put together is on the master plan website, which is sawyercounty.airportstudy.net. You can go see the information that's compiled there. On the agenda for the county board, the tribal law enforcement grant, cooperative tribal law enforcement grant will be on there. I know that took a lot of discussion in prior years, but we're going ahead with it the same as we did last year. Essentially, we'll be sponsoring the application on behalf of LCO to the state, and they've prepared the application, and the money will be directly appropriated to LCO for their use for their animal control program. We have a radio RFP is out and is due at the end of this month. And we've addressed some issues with Senior Resource Center. I think we discussed that a little bit last month, but helping them with some backup plans for meal delivery to make sure that that's happening as it should be. And other than that, just some HR personnel stuff that's taking up a little bit of time in the office. And then if you haven't signed up, we have Board of Adjustment and zoning trainings. Board of Adjustment is Tuesday before the county board meeting, and zoning committee is the 29th of November. Both are from 3 to 6 at Seven Winds Casino. I just got updates. I think there's almost 40 registered for the Board of Adjustment and just under 40 for the zoning committee. So
Wow, wonderful.
yep, they're getting good.
And that's open to multiple counties, right?
Yeah, it's open to anybody.
Got it. All right, any questions, concerns for Mr. Alvarado? Are you good, Dale?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you, Andy. Future agenda items. Anybody have any ideas, anything that we are missing? I guess we've got a recommended budget now from finance that we're gonna move forward Tuesday.
Yep.
Oh, yes, Ms. Hessel.
That's okay. I can wait till you're done.
I'm good.
At this month's public safety, we had talked about the policy of county employees taking their vehicles home if they live out of county. Is that something you guys would be addressing here as well, or just in public safety?
I guess that would.
So it's the
a change
patrol
in our
cars.
bylaws, right? Or
It's a change in county policy. Yeah.
if it's a change in county policy, we'll probably address it here. Yeah.
So you address it here is that,
Do you have any concern or question about that?
Public safety is gonna put it out.
No, I don't
next month's
know
agenda.
the fact, sorry, other than the fact that we might be losing 5 deputies because of that. So it's something that I believe, and when Ms. Hessel brought it to us, that I had Lynn put it on the agenda for next month's public safety so we can address it
Okay,
and send it where we need to send it.
no, on public safety. And then if there's a need, we'll put it on ad.
You
If
know,
there's a change that they want us to look at, then it would be on our end.
because it would also be not just the sheriff's department, it would also be our county highway commissioner. And I think there's a couple other employees that it might affect. So some counties then charge a rate if they have to leave, if they're so far over the county line and they charge that employee. But right now we have people leaving their vehicles in spots that are secure, but not ideal for an emergency if they have to get, especially in the winter. So I would just like it to be addressed so that we can retain the employees that we have. It costs less to do that than to hire new, I think.
Yeah, I think that would come onto the committee level, but that's an idea. Okay, if nothing else in correspondence, reports from conferences, meetings, anybody?
Are you
Mr.
anticipating making changes to that take home vehicles? Because yes, the highway department does have people that take them home.
out of county.
I think if they're in county, they can take them home. If they're in county, they can take them home, but if they're out of county, they have to leave them at the county line. They can't take them all the way home. So my suggestion is just, and I understand the concern, they should live in Sawyer County. That would be ideal, but not everybody can afford to live in Sawyer County, or their spouse has a job outside of county, so they don't want to move. But if the day and the age of you have to live here to be employed here, I think we just have to look at if that's outdated or not. At the school, we have the same issue. Not all of our administration lives in our district. We just have to respect the fact that, we want the best people, not just people that are living in the county.
Thank you.
Okay, anything on reports, conferences, meetings? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.